All right, good evening. This is the Wednesday, November 28th, 2018 meeting of the Finance Committee. It's just after 7 o'clock, starting a couple of minutes late here. Our agenda tonight, we have the fiscal year 2020 budget kickoff meeting. We're going to actually have a 3-minute break after that to allow basically all the important people in the town here to clear out, which is basically all department heads, directors. And I'd also like to acknowledge Board of Select Chair Doreen Goodrich is here tonight. Hi, Doreen. After that, we've got some transfers we're going to take care of. We have some minutes to acknowledge, and then we'll adjourn. So let's open this up right now. CFO Ed Kazanovich. Ed, the floor is yours for the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
budget.
Before I get started, I just want to dispel a rumor that seemed to be circulating today, resulting from a video that I believe came out of the Auburn PD about the CFO finding 14 ways to slice, dice, chop, rip apart budgets for the upcoming cycle. I can tell you that is not true.
Is there more ways than
Despite the
that?
fact that I believe many of the people sitting out there got a good chuckle out of the video, sorry. So I just want to say that that rumor is not true.
Yeah, call that a positive start, huh?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee, and thank you for all who are in attendance tonight, department heads, division heads, school department, Cecilia, and I believe Superintendent Mary Ellen Brunel will be in attendance at some point. Tonight, we begin the process of the start of the FY 2020 budget. So I'm going to go through a series of slides like we normally do every year. I can tell you that the model presented to you tonight is predicated on an assumption that we're using all of Prop 2.5. We know that hasn't been the case for the last 9 years, but this model does tax at that level for presentation purposes only. So if we look at the summary on this slide, we see that we have appropriations of $68.3 million, revenues of $68.5 million, with an estimated surplus of about $247,000. Certainly, we're going to get into the expense side. We've basically only indexed our expenses or our wages by 2%, and we made some assumptions on our fixed cost. All other line items are assumed to be level funded under this model. So if we start with local receipts, we're using the recently certified values. Our recap was certified Monday of this week. We are using those estimated receipts in 19 as a beginning for FY 20. Cherry sheet right now, we are level funding. Tax levy uses, and we'll get into some of the details, it's an increase of 1.570, a 3.98% increase. Debt exclusions, these are strictly for the Auburn High School and Middle School, reduction of $229,000 or 7.52% reduction. Available funds, this is primarily in the areas of free cash and overlay surplus, down $893,000 or a 35.07 reduction. Total revenue up $448,000 and change, just over it's at 6.66%, a little over 0.5%. And appropriations are up $200,896 or almost 0.3%. On the revenue side, this budget model commits 2.5%, 2.25 of which goes towards the operational side of the budget. 0.25% goes towards our capital needs as defined in the financial policy. This budget uses $450,000 of new growth. Excess levy would remain the same at FY19 levels of $5.336 million. That would be a levy utilization of 88.50. Unused levy, which is comprised of our excess levy of 11.50, and it raises roughly $2.8 million outside of the levy limit for the Auburn High School and the Auburn Middle School. And I know we identify this every year. Certainly, we are committed to the debt and interest payments for a long period of time. I can tell you the Auburn High School will taper off, or will retire that debt entirely in 2024. The Auburn Middle School, on the other hand, we probably have about 16 years left of debt and interest payments. Here's a history of our new growth. The 5-year average is 705,736. Our recently certified new growth for the recap that was just approved for FY19 was 656,765. We still want to remain conservative. We're using 450 in the budget model for FY 2020. On the tax levy side, you can see 2.5% makes up 1.12 million. A new growth at 450,000, giving us a total taxable levy for FY 2020 of 41,058,205, and it's well below the levy limit by 5.3 million. Here's an updated slide based upon the recently approved FY19 recap. As you can see, we haven't taxed at 2.5 in 9 years, beginning in FY 2011. As you can see, the percentage of 2.5 utilization, and you can see the excess levy growing because we're not taxing at the full amount. That translates over a 9-year period of 28,555,228. That's actual dollars, tax levy dollars saved to the taxpayers of the community. On the revenue side, on the cherry sheet, we are, at this point, level funding, although I can tell you the state collections through October are up 350 million. And that's good news. That's above their benchmark through that period in time. On the available fund side, we had a reduction right now of 105,200 in overlay surplus. We had 2 warrant articles in FY19, one for assessing reval of $65,200 and $40,000 recently approved at the fall town meeting to continue our building improvements. Right now, there's no earmark in FY20 for overlay surplus. Furthermore, we don't use overlay surplus to fund our operational side of the budget. Reduction from FY19 of free cash of $730,700. That's a consideration that we will bring before you at the fall town meeting once our free cash is certified for FY19. We have a reduction in sewer retained earnings of $95,000. Bond premium reserve reduction of $90,000. That was a one-time use of bond proceeds that we set aside. It can only be used for restricted expenditures. And we have an increase in our stabilization, net increase over this fiscal year of $190,000. And that's to fund a one-time first payment for the replacement of the turf field at the Auburn High School. As you can see in this slide, this identifies all the available funds to be used, totaling $1.653 million, in the far right-hand column under 2020. Our local receipts right now, as I stated earlier, we are estimated level funding based upon recent FY19 approved values by DOR. And here are those values. So everything from motor vehicle excise all the way down to additional lottery aid one time at the bottom, totaling $9,616,490.85. So all the revenue sources added up to $68,575,027.01. That's 0.66% over current fiscal year. That's an increase of $448,400. $466.80. On the expense side, all wages in this model have been indexed by a value of 2%, which represents an increase of $695,522.46. That value in itself absorbs about 62% of allowable 2.5. So it's a big chunk of change as it relates to the amount that we can raise through taxation. This year's payroll is to be calculated at 52.4%. Once again, the value is indexed by 2%, and I'll show you where that's represented on the appropriation side. This budget meets solid waste pickup as well as the Wheelabrator cost. It's an increase of a blended of about 3.5%. It also provides for an increase in employee benefits by a value of 8%. And once again, I want to caution you, that can move either way very quickly. So that's something we will keep an eye on, and we'll keep you updated as information becomes available to us. The budget provides for a $200,000 debt and interest payment for a bond sale that right now is being used as an estimate, because a portion of that is going to be raised outside of the levy limit as a result of the Auburn Middle School debt. But right now, we're providing a value of $200,000 for a bond issue that's scheduled for this coming February of 19. The expense side also provides for a increase of $113,000 to the tax levy. That represents 1/10 of 2.5% for our 5-year capital plan. That value is based upon the adoption of the financial policy. The total value of tax levy since we began this financial policy, we're raising right now $1.1 million that's currently going towards our capital plan. So as we increase that, we reduce our dependency on bond proceeds to fund our capital program. This budget maintains a level OPEB funding of $500,000. It level funds our roadway reconstruction program, although I can tell you in FY19, we received an additional, where's Billy? 120? About 120 of, good news, $120,000 of Chapter 90 funds. So that will hopefully get some additional work done this spring. It level funds our snow and ice, which we recently increased at the fall time meeting by a sum of money. And it level funds an outside article that historically is voted on by town meeting for Medicaid receipts at a value of $185,000. It level funds cherry sheet charges and expenses, just like we are doing on the revenue side. Once again, this budget also incorporates our financial policies. This is year 7 since its adoption in 2012. There's no earmark in stabilization. It level funds Bay Path assessment. This budget assumes, based upon information we received through the school department, there's a hint that one additional student may enroll in Norfolk Agricultural School. So we increase the assessment by a value of $26,318. It maintains funding at a level of $46,000 for Mary Stone and Julia Bancroft School. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, this may be the last year for that. So here's the budget model by department. Just going to flip through this. Under subtotal, about halfway down the page, the first item after that is the wage index for town and school at 2%. That also includes SOAR Enterprise, it includes Packagug Golf Course, it also includes Cable Access Enterprise Fund as well. Total 2% townwide for all wage-related line items, $695,522.46. So if we look at our total expenses, $68,327,456.86. It's up roughly 0.3% over current fiscal year. That's an increase of $200,896.65. Now, I know that seems small, given the fact that our wages alone is $695,000, but we backed out the amount of money for outside articles, which are not part of the 2020 budget at this point in time. Free cash being $730,000 of that. And there are other outside articles as well. So that gives us a projected surplus of $247,570.16 at this point in time. Some of the budget priorities we are going to consider when formulating the budget. I can tell you that Julie and I will be commencing probably shortly after the first of the year. We'll be notifying the unions. Negotiations will commence. All contracts expire on 6/30/19. What the impact will be on the operational side of the budget certainly is unknown at this point in time. We did build in, for presentation purposes, a 2% factor. Don't know ultimately what the value is going to be once we begin negotiations and once we end. We have a plan to rehab Camp Gleason and utilize some funds under the Cable Access Enterprise Fund for additional meeting space, as well as an area that will allow us to program some senior center activities and other town-related programs. We plan on reviewing, based upon discussion we had the tax classification, we plan on reviewing the limits that will offer some tax relief to our seniors. We would like to continue to increase our town reserve accounts, that being OPEB, stabilization, and our sped reserve account. We're going to continue to rehab and upkeep our town buildings and facilities. There will be a continued effort to try to minimize as best we can the utilization of Proposition 2.5. And we're going to continue to address a long-term strategy to add additional firefighters to allow for a group of 9 firefighters per shift. I can tell you we currently, based upon the hiring of 2 that is scheduled for the beginning of the year, it's going to translate to 2 groups of 9, and we have 2 groups of 8. So we would be looking to add 2, not necessarily in FY 2020, but if allowed, if the budget allows for it, we'd like to continue that goal. And we will determine departmental priorities once we begin discussions and once the budget's submitted in January. And here are some priorities that were forwarded to me from the school department, from Superintendent Mary Ellen Brunel, as well as the business manager, Cecilia Wozbicki. These are the priorities the schools are looking at when building their budget. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time.
Great, thanks, Ed, I appreciate it. Before I open up to questions, we don't often have our town manager here. Julie, thank you for joining us, and I'll open up any comments or direction that you want to provide to us.
No, I don't have anything to add other than, as Ed mentioned, we are going to be moving forward on determining what the departmental priorities are. The fact that we have collective bargaining this year does make it somewhat tenuous as far as solidifying any of those recommendations, so we will be undertaking that, as Ed said, in January. That's probably the largest piece that we're not really, we're not able to predict that yet.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Good, and no organizational shifts, changes significant? I mean, we've got a good structure in place, we got great people in place. Nothing going on organizationally, right?
Through the chair, no, I think it's pretty much status quo. We've been making some changes over the last couple of years, increasing where we needed to in certain departments, beefing up some of our inspectional areas. As you've seen, we've moved forward on positions in the police department, the fire department, and DPW over the last couple of years. So I think we don't see anything major, although honestly, we haven't met with the department heads to see if they have any priorities that might have come up. But nothing planned right now unless there's something unseen.
Okay, great. I'll open up to questions. Anyone here? And I know I always open up to questions. There's nothing coming from this beautiful audience. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Thanks for coming tonight.
Well, one comment, Mr. Chairman. I think I just want to highlight this. In terms of the debt exclusion votes and the debt we're raising outside of the levy limit, as you can see, there's a slight reduction this year. We've plateaued, so we're going to start coming down a little bit as we're retiring the high school debt. We're paying less interest. So that's a good thing. So that's going to create some, hopefully that will provide some relief to the taxpayers of the community because we're raising less money. But it looks like we peaked. We have one more bond issue. We're going to bond about, I think about 700,000. I'm looking for Cecilia. I think we just got our last reimbursement from MSBA for the Auburn Middle School project. That has been approved. It's been audited. They released the final payment. Now we can move forward and bond that final share. So it's about 700,000. So we are going to incur a little more debt that may offset that $200,000 reduction, because I don't know what that value is right now. But certainly in the years to come, there'll be a tapering off.
What's the term of that bond going to be? Is it 20? 25?
So it's net of any bans that went off. It's typically about 18 to 20. We can go out for a longer term, but we decided not to. It just didn't make sense given the rates were really low when we went to market, so we wanted to take advantage of that.
Good, okay. That's smart. Yeah, it's nice to see some of that debt coming off on the high school, because I thought you were going to say you were going to earmark that availability for something else. All the taxpayers appreciate you looking at saving a little bit to keep that rate increase down. That's great. Anything else from anybody? I always feel bad on getting you folks out after hours because I know you work hard during the day, so thank you for coming tonight. And I know there's been open communication with town administration. I don't hear any barking or bitching from anyone all year long, and it's not fun, but I do appreciate it. But if there are any concerns, I think everyone knows how to get in touch with me somehow or other. And we would like to see, if you do have some differences with town administration on your budgets, we'd like to see them here too, because if nothing else, maybe that's for future thought in terms of something we can do in the future or remind them to do. Not that they need any reminding. I'm sure you're in their faces pretty often. So everyone, thanks for coming. I'd like to accept a motion for like a 3-minute break to let everyone clear out.
So moved.
Have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. We'll take a 3-minute break. Thanks, everybody. I guess we're going to reopen the meeting. Do we need a motion to do that?
No, just
Great. We're reopening the meeting. This part of the finance meeting, we'll be going through a series of transfers, and it's a group of transfers that I'm going to defer to CFO Ed Kazanovich to discuss. These are cost of living adjustments that were actually sort of planned for in group but not individually, and where substantially all these transfers are coming from one account. We're going to talk to all of them. I'm going to open it up if anyone has questions on any individual transfer, but we're going to take them as a whole. Just to move the meeting along. So, Ed, the microphone is back in your hands in terms of what we're trying to accomplish here.
So I believe we informed you some time ago that when we built the budget for 19, we included a 2% value for all bylaw employees. We considered Well, first of all, the 2% was contingent upon a successful evaluation. So that was the trigger for the 2%, like it has been for years. The 1% was an adjustment for all bylaw employees in terms of a COLA. And that was considered to keep pace with some of the bargaining groups that were getting more than the bylaw employees. So, as we told you, we had a problem addressing some positions because the union rates of pay were outpacing those of bylaw employees. In some cases, we made some adjustments. This is an effort for bylaw to at least stay even with some of the other groups that are bumping up against the bylaw employees' wages.
Okay, and as Sharon helped me out with the math on this, it was just over 19,000 in total that we're looking at in terms of adjustments. And this is really moving from our salary reserve account, therefore we planned on a sum of money for this, into the individual accounts necessary for each of the department personnel. Okay. Ed, anything else to add
Mr.
to it?
Chairman, we
Yep.
have an original appropriation of $60,000 in the salary and wage reserve account. We have not transferred out any money to date, so this would be the first set of transfers to go against that item.
Okay, good. And as I remember, and I know we haven't had this discussion, Julie, you and I, we've met years past on bylaw employees, and some of the inversion that was going on is employees, union employees were technically about to get paid more than their managers, so which creates an awkward situation. Different bargaining groups, basically no bargaining group versus the union. So I'm hoping this takes care of that, or at least keeps us even with that.
Mr. Chairman, I think you and your committee gave us some flexibility to address some deficiencies in the areas of inspectional services in some other departments. We increased the salary and wage reserve account by $20,000 to address some of those problem areas. So we continue to look at that. We recently brought in a new planner, and there is a transfer as part of the 19 that really goes above and beyond the 1%, because our former planner was getting there was a pay allocation. Part of his pay was coming out of energy manager, for energy manager responsibilities. So it was coming out of Muni Ag, which is an amount of money we get reimbursed on through National Grid, because there is a green energy component to how we function. So quite honestly, the value of the transfer is less than 19, because we had to adjust the planner salary by $3,000 and change. That goes beyond the 1%, because we had to backfill that Muni Ag piece, because our town planner, former town planner, is now our energy manager and is getting his pay directly out of Muni Ag. So I just want to let you know,
Okay.
it's not.
Can I assume that that particular transfer is a different description than the other ones?
I don't know how it was.
All right, well, but just, I want to note that when we get to it, just so we're
Okay.
above board with it. Most of these are out of the salary reserve account. The first couple here are actually going to be interdepartmental transfers for the same reason. So we'll take them as they come. I've got 3 pages of those, and then I think most of the rest are from the salary reserve account. And if I heard you correctly, we're starting with a budget of $60,000 in that. These transfers are somewhere around $19,000 from that account, and the other transfers are from just different areas. Okay. Let me open up to any questions, and by the way, if anyone has a question on a specific transfer, just slow me down here, because to me, it's like this is just, we're pushing some paper in this regard, so long as we're comfortable with what we're doing behind it. Okay, any questions at this point? Okay, so I'm going to start with, these are interdepartmental transfers. and I think we're all in the same order. This is under Council on Aging. This is a 1% COLA transfer from van drivers to director. Salary amount is $637. There a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. The next transfer, this is under library. There's 3 transfers. Let's take them individually. They're going 2 separate accounts. The first one is pages. We're actually taking $450 to the Assistant to Director of Patron Services for a COLA adjustment. Do you have a motion on that one?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, Ann, go ahead. Sure.
As a question, I noticed that in the line item, there's only $4,510, and this is taking out $1,350, so it's taking out a pretty good chunk. I assume, will there be enough
Yes.
for the year? Okay.
Okay, good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. There'll be 2 additional transfers from pages as part of this. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. The second transfer is also from pages, also $450 to the Assistant to Director of Technology, also a COLA adjustment. Motion on this?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. And final transfer into library, also from pages, $450 to Assistant to the Director, Charter Services, and, no, I'm not sure, Special Projects. I assume the same, this is also a COLA adjustment.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.
Just
Thank you.
just to clarify, that's children's services.
Children's Services, thank you. That makes more sense. Thanks, Julie. This is why we have you here. Ed could not have picked that one up.
Thank you.
Never mind.
Anytime.
All right, that's fine. Our next transfer, this is under DPW Sewer Service. This is going from the contingency account to salary superintendent, $81.84. Budget initially calculated at 2%, increase instead of 3%.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Okay, I'm assuming the rest of these, Sharon, are all salary reserve transfers? Okay. So these are all coming from the salary reserve account. And I will accept a motion to take all of these as one, knowing that it's about 19,000, just over.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. If there's a question within the middle of this, great. I'm just going to kind of rip through reading this. Under manager salary, amount requested $2,000 to provide funds for April 2018 annual evaluation per employment contract. Under accountant salary, amount requested $2,518 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under accountant clerical, amount requested $1,980 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under assessor salary, amount requested $704 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under assessor, assistant assessor, amount requested $1,541 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under treasurer, salary, amount requested $663 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under MIS, system manager, amount requested $612 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Town clerk, under clerical, amount requested $468.91. This is the same reason, I guess, COLA adjustment. Under DPW stormwater, civil engineer, amount requested $205.12 to cover the 1% COLA. Excuse me. Under DPW engineering division, salary, amount requested $1,056.76 to cover the 1% COLA. Under DPW engineering division, civil engineer, amount requested $413.81 to cover 1% COLA. DPW Highway Assistant DPW Director, amount requested $744.56 to cover the 1% COLA. DPW Highway Division, Highway Superintendent, amount requested $675.68 to cover the 1% COLA. DPW Cemetery Division, Cemetery Superintendent, amount requested $52.39 to cover the 1% COLA. Under DPW Cemetery, Civil Engineer, amount requested $73.40 to cover the 1% COLA. Under DPW Recreation Division, Recreation Director, amount requested $405.91 to cover the 1% COLA. Packagug Golf Course Superintendent, amount requested $599.76, also relating to the COLA.
Mr. Chairman, that's going to present, this one's going to present a problem.
Which this
I just picked up on it. Enterprise is non-general fund,
Okay,
so we're going to have to find another way to address this without drawing off the reserve account.
gotcha. So hold both of these?
Let me
Two?
just, yes.
Okay, we'll put them aside.
We can bring it back at a later date.
Okay. It's job security for us, I guess. Had a good rhythm going there, Ed. Thanks a lot. Okay, under the DDIS Board of Health Division, sanitarian salary, amount requested $769 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Also under DDIS Board of Health Division, Assistant Director, amount requested $603 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under DDIS Economic Development Division, amount requested $1,500 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. That's for the Economic Development Coordinator. Okay. Under DDIS Building Division, Building Commissioner Assistant DDIS, amount requested $720 to provide funds for the 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Under DDIS Animal Control Officer, the Animal Inspector, amount requested $511 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. And the last transfer, under Veterans, a salary, amount requested $145 to provide funds for 1% COLA for bylaw employees. Okay, those are the transfers. I'll open it up one last time for any questions.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you. And that covers all of the transfers we can look at tonight, right, Ed?
Yeah, I'm just to revisit the Packagug Golf Course, they do have their own contingency account, so it would require a interdepartmental transfer. That's something we'll bring back at a later meeting. But they have money within their budget to address
They
that.
do, so, because obviously that can be a verbal transfer if necessary.
I know, it's not necessary. We'll put a
Okay.
administrative hold on a portion of that 10, just to lock it in.
I have a strong inkling we're not going to meet again this year.
I think you are correct on that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it can
That
wait.
was a very uncomfortable pause there for a second. All right, so that can be addressed at a later date? Okay. That's great. So that covers our transfers, takes care of the bylaw employees, which is a nice thing during the holiday
Thank you very
season, I guess. Take care of them. They do a great job up here and wherever they are throughout town. Our next item on the agenda is, we've got minutes from June 20th, 2018, September 26th, 2018, and October 23rd, 2018. Any corrections or comments on those? Okay, that's great. Goes back to, when the heck we're going to meet again?
If we're lucky, February, when we bring the
Yeah,
budget
that- I
to
mean,
you,
that,
but I don't know if there'll be a
okay.
need to meet prior to then.
Sure.
Certainly, we'll keep you abreast of anything that requires some immediate attention, and we can strategize on how the committee would want to act on something that may pop
Okay.
up unexpectedly.
Okay. Where I fully expect that those next series of meetings, we will certainly allow the manager to show up, but it's not necessary for her to be here. Any final comments, updates from the town manager?
No, I think I'm good. They gave me 30 seconds, so I think I've already used my allotted
Oh,
time.
no, that's fine. They
No, we're
gave
just
you more than I
looking-
thought they were going to give you.
I know. I've learned.
Okay.
No, I'm
that's,
very good, thank you.
That's fine. Anything else from the committee?
Yeah,
Yeah.
could we get a copy of the recap sheet? Maybe email that out to us?
Absolutely,
Thank
yep.
you.
All right, that's great. If there isn't anything else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thanks, good night, happy holidays.